I wanted to start today just by kind of sharing about my experience yesterday and the day before canvassing. So we have an election coming up, and I felt really moved to do some door knocking. And so I signed up with the Democratic Party and got my little walk list. And they put me right in this neighborhood, right? They saw where I lived and they gave me a list that was in this neighborhood. And pretty much every one of our residents was on my list. So I got to knock on our residents' doors and pretend I was just a concerned neighbor and hand out some campaign literature. So I don't want to talk about the election or anything like that. But I did just want to share how powerful it was to walk our neighborhood just down I Street, J Street, 28th, 24th, Michelle Court. Because I passed these houses for years on my way to the gym, on my way to Starbucks, on my way to this. I passed all these houses, and without even really being aware of it, I'm afraid to say, like, made all these assumptions. You know, there's a lot of houses that maybe are like in disrepair. Maybe they have certain kinds of signs outside. Some of them are usually you just kind of see a very angry pit bull barking at you as you walk by. Maybe some like, you know, reminiscent or indicative of some hoarding going on, like lots of, old broken down stuff in the yard. Um, and I realized that I made so many assumptions about those places. Those places must want to be private. Those places must have angry, dangerous people because they have this pit bull outside all the time. And I've always been curious about what goes on behind those fences. But during this week, I actually got to see as I was knocking doors. And there were so many doors where, like, I look at my list and it's like, uh-oh, the pit bull house. And so I very trepidatiously kind of like creak the fence door open to make sure no one's going to bite my head off. And pretty much, maybe 90%, if not all of the doors that I knocked, and I knocked 100 doors in a couple days, and pretty much every single person that I got to talk to was just the sweetest, kindest, most present, smiley, interested, welcoming person I could possibly imagine. And particularly in all of the houses that I was scared of, all of the houses that I figured some lonely, scary guy there who doesn't want anything to do with anyone. No, it was like some sweet person who answered the door and said, thanks for doing your work. And oh, that's so interesting. And yeah, I'm going to get my ballot. And it's so good you're doing what you're doing. Um, Very often not in English, but, you know, just could not be more welcoming. And so I don't know, it just made me think of Bernie Glassman and the Zen Peacemakers and plunges. Maybe you guys have heard that. The Peacemakers talk about doing plunges, which is actively putting yourself in a position that maybe is outside your comfort zone. Uh, Exploring the cracks. That's another thing Bernie used to say, is exploring the cracks of our world and our life, the places we kind of overlook, the places we kind of stay away from, the places we just want to make assumptions about and move on. Um, so, canvassing is great because, democracy and we're doing what we can. But in addition to that, even for me, more of the deeper experience was this kind of spiritual plunge into exploring my cracks and putting myself in positions that I wouldn't have otherwise done. And the love and the warmth that I received in these cracks was very powerful and moving. So however that touches you and encourages you to explore the cracks in your life, I hope it does, and I hope you do. So moving on to the main topic of today's talk, you know I like talking about holidays and relevant events, so it is Halloween soon, hence my recent fashion decision to celebrate. So Halloween, um, I wanted to look it up because obviously we have this very kind of consumer-oriented American version of Halloween. And if you do a quick lookup, you see that it kind of derives from All Hallows Eve, which actually derives from an old pagan or Celtic. I actually don't know if you can say pagan. I'm not exactly sure what pagan means precisely, but an old Celtic festival called Samhain, and it was celebrated in between the fall solstice, no, fall equinox, and then the winter solstice. That's right. And it was this day where the veil between the living and the dead kind of blurred, and offerings were made, and altars were set up to kind of honor the dead and our ancestors. And you have this belief that the kind of dead can cross over. And so this line between dead and alive kind of gets blurred. So then, of course, we also at this time celebrate Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, which there's a lot of writing and a lot of stuff about where exactly that began. There's a discussion about it might have actually come from Spain. There's a discussion that it's actually more rooted in indigenous cultures here before the Spanish came, or what they call pre-Columbian times. But it's primarily, I think, practiced in Mexico, at least the version that we know about it. And it's about the same time. And in fact, Ali, I don't know if you would like to just share something about Dia de los Muertos, what it means to you, how you see it. You don't have to. I can just give a quick little something, but okay. Yeah. So it also honors our dead, and it honors our ancestors. You also make altars, or what they call ofrendas, um, and it keeps the memory of our ancestors alive. It kind of breaks that veil again, where the dead and the living can kind of meet. Our ancestral spirits visit the home and ward off evil demons and spirits and stuff. So we kind of see a similarity here. There's a theme. Um, and then thirdly, right, so we're here in America, we do a Halloween. Being in National City, being in our neighborhood, we see a lot of Dia de los Muertos is very alive in our culture, in our neighborhood here. And then as a Zen center and as Zen practitioners, we also have Obon. Obon is a festival that is typically celebrated a little bit earlier. Some places in Japan do it in August, other places do it in July, but close enough, second half of the year, let's say. And it is very similar. It is a festival to honor the dead, to honor and make offerings to our ancestors. And when you look it up, same kind of language, breaking that veil between the dead and the living, where you can kind of touch and connect and offer and keep the spirits of those who have passed alive. And of course, the Obon is kind of associated with what's called the Ghost Festival, which is more of a like strictly Buddhist holiday. And in that festival, we honor the hungry ghosts, which is what we do in the Gate of Sweet Nectar here every Sunday. The hungry ghosts are these mythical characters who have these big bellies and these tiny, tiny little necks, so that they're always hungry, but they can only swallow one tiny little seed at a time. So they're never satisfied. They're always hungry. They can never get enough. And I'm sure we all relate to that in our own suffering and our own desires. Always hungry, always wanting more. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want some milk. You give the mouse some milk, he's going to want a napkin, or however it goes. Um, so just to kind of set up that, just here, being Sweetwater Zen Center in National City as, an American institution, we kind of get access to these three different holidays or festivals that all point to and honor the lifting of the veil between the dead and the living. And so we're particularly aware of it at this time of the year. But as I'm thinking about it, I kind of want to offer the idea that Zen and Buddhism kind of is about this veil all the time. That's kind of what our practice is. A lot of us, so much of our practice is about our life and how it's going and how we treat people and how we're of service and how stressed we are and how peaceful we are and how much love we have. And you know, and that's our life, that's our karma, that's how our practice manifests. But in a way, the origin of this practice and the bedrock of Buddhism and why the Buddha even decided to leave the palace and pursue spirituality in the first place is this question of what is life? What is death? How does this make sense that I have this whole life with all these things I care about and all this suffering and all this joy and all this love and all this stuff, and I'm just gonna die? And in the blink of an eye, the sun is going to explode and everything we knew to be life ever is just going to be totally gone. How does that make any sense? What is this life? What is this difference between life and death? And I think that's what motivated the Buddha a lot, to just simply seek out spirituality in the first place. Some scholars say all religion throughout space and time is based on this. What is death? Why am I here if I just go away? Who is it that goes away? Who is it that's here? What does it mean to be alive? There's some guy named Sanjay in Indonesia right now. I have no idea who he is. I have no idea if he exists. He has no idea if I exist. So am I alive? I don't have a body or a mind or a voice to Sanjay, just like he doesn't have to me. So is he alive? My grandfather, I can see him perfectly. I can hear his voice. I know what he looks like. Some of his teachings are still very alive with me today. Is he alive? He's kind of more alive than Sanjay is to me. So, life and death, what is that difference? We talk about oneness a lot, right? One with the birds, one with the trees, we're one with everything. We talk about being, one with the joys and pains of the universe. So your joy is my joy. Your pain is my pain. What about death? If we're going to say oneness, then we have to go the full way. So in a sense, Luis, our old member Luis, who passed away, his death is my death. To say that he is more dead than me creates separation and dualism right there. So how do we have that experience, that Malcolm X's death is my death? my grandfather, my grandmother's death is my death, just like their life is my life. Doesn't make any sense, but if we trust the Buddhas and the lineage and this practice, we know that we can have that experience of that great death where I cease to exist and become everything, including all the lives and all the deaths that have ever been and ever will be. Lighthearted stuff here on Sunday the 26th. So anyway, there's a koan that really kind of addresses this that I wanted to talk about, I guess, super quickly because time is crazy. So this is from the Blue Cliff Record, which is one of the collections of koans that we use in our curriculum here. And I love, love, love this book, this translation, and these commentaries. The Garden of Flowers and Weeds. Anyone who's interested in the Blue Cliff Record, or those of you who will be doing it with me or with your teacher, this is a great, great, great book. Okay, case 55. It features Daowu and Jianyuan, which are the Chinese names, but in the Japanese names, which we usually use, it's Dogo and Zengen. Dogo and Zengen. So we'll use those names. Dogo and his student Zengen made a condolence call to a layman's family. Yeah, let's just go through it. So this is, a major function of monastic practice in Zen. It still goes on today, doing funeral calls. Apparently, when I was in Japan, something I learned is that when you're born, the Shinto priest comes and blesses you. When you get married, you use a Christian priest or pastor or reverend. And when you die, that's when the Buddhists come and do their ceremony. Does that check out, Kosei?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, cool. And how wonderful is that to just have like an interfaith mainstream protocol? It's kind of nice. So yeah, Buddhists are all about these condolence calls. Zengen at this house, he taps on the coffin and he says to Daowu or Dogo, alive or dead? So he's pointing to this veil. He's pointing to this oneness, this coffin, which was a tree, this body, which was a person. Are they alive or dead? When do you become dead? When do you become alive? This is a question that makes the abortion conversation in our country so tough. When does life start? When exactly does it end? And so Dogo answers him, I won't say alive, I won't say dead. Zengen says, why won't you say? Dogo says, I won't say. So that's really, right there is kind of the meat and the juice of the koan. And I don't want to spoil your own work with it, so I don't want to say too much. There's a lot to say about this, I won't say. And, one aspect of it is let's not just take people's word for it. I'm not going to tell you the answer because I want you to know the answer. I want you to experience life and death. I want you to experience that veil being lifted. And if I just tell you, well, you're one with everything, and so everyone's death is your death, and everyone's life is your, then it's just words. Then it's just a teaching. Then it's just Buddhism. And how unsatisfying is that? So there is that aspect of I won't say because I want you to see life and death in your bones, in your heart. But then it also really goes deeper, this I won't say. And we know, and we really get the spirit of that because of how dedicated Dogo is, right? Zengen says, alive or dead? Dogo says, I won't say alive, I won't say dead. Zengen says, why won't you say? And again, I won't say. I don't want to give too much away, but just maybe entertain the idea that to say something, to make a comment, to state a message, to give an answer, is to kind of hang on to some kind of idea. So halfway back to the temple from this condolence call, Zengen said, Master, you better tell me right now or I'm going to hit you. Dogo said, hit if you have to hit. Saying is the same as not saying. So Zengen hit him. So you can really kind of get Zengen's passion here, right? Tell me, what is it? Tell me, what is life? What is death? Are they the same? Are they one? Are they different? I'm dying here. My spirit just needs to know, what is enlightenment? How do I transcend life and death? Please tell me. If you don't tell me, I'm going to hit you in the face. I'm going to eat your pizza. I'm going to never talk to you again. And, I don't know if anyone else resonates with this kind of people-pleasing tendency. And someone wants something so bad, and they're so frustrated. And they're like, if you don't give me this, I'm not going to be your friend, or I'm not going to come back to your Zen center, or I'm not going to, and that urge to give them what they want. Sometimes it's out of service, but I know for me, so often it's a selfish thing because I want them to like me and I want them to be around. And so for Dogo to say, hit me if you have to, leave me if you have to, talk shit about me behind my back if you have to, but saying is the same as not saying. So this is this great compassion. Of course he wants Zengen to stick around, but he won't say. He's holding back that people-pleasing so that Zengen can see for himself life, death, saying, not saying, knowing, not knowing. How do we penetrate these dualisms? We have to do it for ourselves. And how do we do that? Lots and lots of zazen. Lots and lots of practicing with your community. Talking at the well. Composting relationships. That is how we see, taste for ourselves, life and death disappearing into one. Or maybe I should say not one and not two. So later, Dogo passed away. Zengen went to see his Dharma brother, I guess Sekiso, and told him about this story. And Sekiso said, I won't say alive and I won't say dead. Zengen said, why won't you say? Sekiso said, I won't say. I won't say. That commitment to not hanging on. At these words, finally, Zengen had an insight. The next day, Zengen carried a shovel with him into the Dharma hall, where he crossed from east to west and west to east. Sekiso said, what are you doing? Zengen said, I'm looking for the relics of our late master. So this is just kind of like a Dharma show he's putting on with Sekiso. They're playing. They're playing. Sekiso really helped Zengen to penetrate just a little bit into this life and death thing. And so now they're just playing. Dharma, we always say Dharma combat, but this is more like Dharma pillow fighting. Sekiso says, vast waves spread across the horizon. Foaming billows flood the sky. What relics do you expect to find? So these waves spreading across the horizon. There's different ways they talk about this. I just kind of like the image of, I don't know if you ever noticed when you like go to see the ocean and the horizon and the sky meet and they kind of look like the same thing. Can't really tell where the water and the sky begin. So that expression of oneness. Your late teacher is here. You don't need a shovel. You don't need to dig up any kind of thing that used to be. Your teacher is here right now. Foaming billows flood the sky. They say that's a reference to his ashes. You know, when they cremated him, his spirit is here. His energy is still here with us. It billows everywhere, always. So what are you trying to find? You don't have to look anywhere. Everyone is here right now. The veil between a dead and alive is false. Okay, so this translation that says that Zengen that says, just do it. Right? So Sekiso says, your teacher's here. What do you expect to find with your shovel? Jinyuan or Zengen says, just do it. Another translation is, that is what to work on. That's what we're here to do. We're here to constantly penetrate. What is this life? What is it to die? Impermanence. Everything. So yeah, Zengen just simply says, just do it. Just look for that oneness constantly. And Sekiso says, or actually no, someone else chimes in as like a commentary, the late master's relics are here. Basically saying, yeah, that is the teaching. That is enlightenment. That's what's been passed down. Pay attention. Take a look. Ask the questions. Penetrate deeper. Sit again. Talk to the people at the well. Knock on doors. Enter the cracks. Question everything. Let go of everything. Be death. Be life. Just do it.